Hi class, today we're going to talk about the tools and metrics for engagement that we should be using as communication and PR specialists to measure the effect that our social media strategy has on the bottom line. At your company or nonprofit, or if you're in the military or looking for a career change, we're going to go over today the tools and metrics that we should be using. So as we talked about in the last video in Module 4, we found ourselves in this place now as communication and PR specialists where we're using technology to test the social media that we worked so hard at creating and implementing and distributing. So we have this new term called tech testers. We research, test, and implement the technology as part of our daily function. Maybe 10 years ago you didn't think that your role as a communicator or PR specialist or social media person would involve using technology on a daily basis and looking at the metrics and making analytical data decisions based on how we're performing. But we do now, and we are accountable, as I mentioned before. Going back to the very beginning of class, we listen and measure to make sure what we're doing is effective, and then to see how we influence the bottom line. And that is part of our job, our skill sets today. What does this require, and what are the considerations you may be asking? I have two slides on consideration, and the first one is how will the technology support our goals and objectives? As you're going to see throughout this presentation, there are so many different technologies and tools and platforms we can use to measure our social media. It's almost overwhelming. And when you look at the readings in this modules, you'll see that I've included a couple links to professional associations that actually give listings and a framework to the different modules, to the different types of technologies you can use. And just right off the bat, you have to know that some of these different measuring tools are free for a couple months or maybe a week usage. Some are free all the time. Some are never free, and there is a cost to them. So that's something to really think about, and I think that's really important as we talk about resources throughout the 4 weeks. Not only is it resources of humans in implementing a strong social media plan, but resources of tools. And so you may go to your boss and say, we've been doing this social media now for a couple years. We feel it's strong. We feel it's, increasing the bottom line. We feel we're contributing to the company or the organization, but we really want to measure. And, then the reply might be, well, how much is this going to cost? Which is very common, and so we may say, well, some of these tools are free, and let's, do a test on them. Let's test a certain tool for 6 months and see what the results yield. And that might be good enough, that might be good enough to just use the basic level of some of these tools, but you may want to take the next step up and get a platform or a tool set that you pay a monthly subscription for, and it's going to give you another level of analytics. So that's something, and that's what we're going to talk about today to consider as we move forward. So is the technology you're using helping you build awareness, amplify your messages, changing an opinion, influence somebody, develop relationships? These are all things we've been talking about. And monitoring and maintaining a reputation, because that's stuff we want to, if we're going to invest in a tool, these are the things we want to help us with. And once again, what are the internal resources to manage the tools that we've selected? And I think we've covered that sufficiently. More considerations: does the technology cast a wide net, or is it for one specific channel? So if you guys have worked with Heartbeat before, that does manage and measure almost all the channels. CrowdBooster is very Twitter specific. Here at Rutgers we use Hootsuite, which does come with a limited set of analytics on each of the channels that we use, social media channels, and the social media channels that we use at Rutgers, at my school, are Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And we also use Snapchat when we have interns in, and can also use that platform because we find that Snapchat is more it's so visual and so video based, and we try to use that when we have big events on campus. But Hootsuite allows us to schedule our social media either an hour in advance or a year in advance. It's really outstanding. Allows us to add URLs, and they'll shorten the URL. It allows us to then, once we've run the social media and we look at something, 3 months out or a year later, what was the baseline, the benchmarking analytics on those posts? Did one event generate more likes? Did one video generate more shares? We're able to look at all that data through Hootsuite and then make a decision. Now, the Hootsuite that I use at the school is a paid platform. I found that when we went to the next level of paying for it, so many more analytics opened up, that was something that was needed where I worked. There are free levels of these different platforms. Does the technology support content development and listening and monitoring? Does the technology offer metrics and measurements to tie back to the high level goals? And that's something that I just talked about in my little example. What are the responsibilities as being a tech tester? Well, this is, like I said, the new role that we're undertaking. We research and test and implement the technologies, and we use social media monitoring and measurement tools, website analytics, social media influencer tools, collaborative social media platforms. And like I said before, even within each social media platform like Facebook, they offer free analytics. And once again, I think it's called Facebook Insights, YouTube Insights, Twitter. If you're on Twitter and you look at the left-hand column where your profile is, there is a area where you can get some baseline analytics. LinkedIn also, LK stands for LinkedIn. It also has some analytics. Once again, though, when you pay, you get more analytics. So at my school, we're doing some Facebook advertising, and we also have dabbled in some Instagram advertising. And when you pay for those services, for the ads, you get more analytics. So it really depends on, if you're looking at analytics and you're looking at the metrics, how much do you want to pay, and who will be the people that will be responsible for this? Will it just be your communications and PR people? Will it be website people? Will it be IT? Will it be marketing and sales? This is something that, for each company, it is truly different. I know again, when I work at Rutgers, all that comes back on the communications team, and we feed that data to the various upper level deans, and we're trying to make the best decisions on moving forward on each one of our social media platforms. The next couple slides are actually going to give you examples of the tools that you can use. So this slide talks about examples of technology resources by category, monitoring and measuring, Google Alerts. You can sign up for those. Those are free. Social Mentions, Vocus, social media monitoring, Heartbeat we talked about. Cision and Meltwater are social media monitoring tools, and they're also we actually use Meltwater at Rutgers. Some schools at Rutgers use Cision. These are expensive tools. I'm not going to lie to you. We have made an investment in Meltwater where I am and I work, and my PR specialist uses that tool to pitch to reporters that have a specific beat on the research that our faculty was doing. Cision also operates in the same manner. Both these tools also have strong social media components. Well, they will measure, you can schedule your social media through both those tools. And then you can also, they have analytics where you can see if a specific tweet or a specific share, what is the relevance of it? Did it influence anybody? Are your influencers sharing? So Meltwater, like I said, is the tool that I use, and it really almost takes about 6 months to get it up and running to the degree that, it makes it worthwhile. The good thing about Meltwater, and I'm sure Cision shares the same characteristic, is that they have strong customer service. So my PR specialist is on the phone with Meltwater. At the beginning, I think she was on the phone with them every single week talking about, okay, what's the next step? What's the next step? Once you get all your data into Meltwater, then Meltwater actually uses the data, and in our case, the data would be faculty names and research areas and areas they're willing to speak about, and then they search all the media mentions during the day, all the social media mentions. And so what we get back on a daily basis is which faculty members are being quoted in the press, what tweets, where we see our school's name or our faculty's name or research topics that our faculty members are expert in appearing on social media. And that helps us put together a plan of action as to, oh, so-and-so was quoted here via this influencer. We need to be friends with this influencer. We need to feed information to this influencer, or they're being quoted in the New York Times. And then we then we actually push out those articles in that faculty via the New York Times and saying, look at us, look at our faculty member, they're a media expert on this topic. So it's a major investment. Some of these tools, for us, we found it to be worthwhile. And your company may or may not. So it's your job as these communication and social media experts to dabble in this and see what tools work for us. What's our goal? What social media platforms are we using? How do we want to measure? Are we even at the point of measuring? And hopefully you are. And then what tool best fits you? So this moment in Social Sprout we've mentioned before. This slide talks about the examples of technology resources by category. So the influencer tools, we've talked about influencers a lot the last couple of weeks, Clout, Pure Index, Tweet Level, Crowd Booster. You can Google all these tools and you can come to their website pages and they'll give you an explanation of how they work and also their paid or unpaid characteristics, to customer service characteristics. News release and social media releases, we talked about that the last week. Pitch Engine, PR Web, PR Newswire, MarketWire. I'm sure there are many more. Probably in the time that I've spoken during this presentation, new ones come out all the time. So I hope that you will, talk among your classmates about the different tools to use and see what other people are using. I spent a lot of time talking today about using Meltwater and Hootsuite because those are the ones we use. We also use Constant Contact, just to throw that out there, even though this presentation is not about email marketing, but we use Constant Contact to email out our newsletter. And the analytics we have within Constant Contact are really sufficient to the goals that we're trying to achieve. So we have a new newsletter. We send it out every 3 months. It has information about faculty, staff, students, and alumni. We can see when people open it. We can see the click-through rates. We can see how they're opening it, what they're reading. And really, for me and my job in higher ed, that is enough analytics. If I was working at a different company, they might want to have a different level of analytics. So, our job has changed, as we have talked about the last couple of weeks. We have become tech testers, but we don't need to let that scare us, because what you really need to concentrate on is, again, what platform works best for you, what tool works best for you, then test it, and what are your resources? How much money can you put towards these tools? Maybe just getting Hootsuite at a paid level or Meltwater at a paid level is enough for you for this year, and that's okay. So we don't need to be worried that we're not doing everything at one time, because no one can. So I encourage you to talk among your classmates. If there are other tools and platforms that I haven't mentioned, please bring that into the online discussion. And I thank you very much, and have a good day, and get out there and be a tech tester.